strength can support alignment because you have more energy and capacity to live the life that you actually want. It is hard to live in alignment if you're constantly depleted, disconnected, or at war with your own body. Hey, Emily. So, over the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about the old model of achievement. This idea that we just need to push harder, stay disciplined, keep going, and somehow override stress, exhaustion, or even disconnection. And I think we've done a good job at really naming the problem. A lot of us are taught to think that being tired is actually just normal and that being overwhelmed means we are too ambitious, and ignoring what our body is saying or how we are feeling is just being strong. But now I think we need to shift into what the new model actually looks like, because it's one thing to say, stop pushing through. But then the next question is, what do we need instead?
Yeah, and I think that this is such a meaningful shift. With fitness and nutrition, people often hear listen to your body or eat intuitively. And sometimes I think that this can get misconstrued to send a message that this means we don't need structure or have goals or discipline. And this can especially get confusing when it comes to effort and having a structured plan. What we are saying is that these things like structure, they still matter, but knowing your body and listening to your body when it really matters is so important to learn how to do. So, when we talk about building strength, nutrition, consistency, and recovery habits, the difference is that we're not using them to punish our body, but to help us feel more uniquely ourselves and confident within the body that we have. We are using these healthy habits to support our own body rather than to punish it.
Well said. And one of the reasons this feels so important is because we saw this so clearly in the women's well-being research that we did at Phoenix Arbor. We surveyed women navigating leadership, career growth, family, responsibility, personal transition, and the pressure to keep succeeding while also trying to protect their well-being. And what stood out was that these women were motivated, they're growth oriented, and they were caring a lot. And they wanted purpose, clarity, stronger relationships, and a more meaningful way forward. But many were also trying to grow from depletion. And that is the piece that matters for this conversation. Because if you're building a life, leading, working, caring for others, supporting your family, and pursuing goals, you need to have capacity underneath all of that. You need support underneath it.
Absolutely. And I love that because it connects directly to what I see with clients as well. Women aren't lazy, they're not unmotivated. We're often doing so much that it doesn't get acknowledged, even by ourselves. And so sometimes they do not have, or we don't have the right support structure underneath everything that we're trying to do and to hold. And that's where building a plan that supports building strength, good food habits, recovery, and rhythm and structure within your life becomes really important.
Yes, for sure. So today we want to talk about what it looks like to build strength from a place of self support instead of self criticism, and what it looks like to fuel for capacity instead of control, as well as what it looks like to recover as part of that process versus something that we think we have to earn only after we've reached depletion, and how all of those pieces become a rhythm that supports the life that we actually want to live.
Yes, and this is where having a strong body, a regulated nervous system, and alignment in your everyday life can really start to come together. It's not just mindset, it's not just workouts or nutrition. It is how all these things work together in your real life to provide the life that feels right for you.
Yeah, having your own business, for example, can definitely be one of those times where you really have to kind of lean into that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The support and understanding when to help you and delegate so that you can also support yourself and figure out what that looks like. I personally learned that through owning my business when I was running on empty about 80% of the time, or it felt like that, I needed more support personally in my life to feel aligned with who I was and what I wanted. But I was so strung out and pouring into everyone else that I didn't know how to support myself in that phase of my life and how to ask for help. So things for me didn't change actually until I made a really hard decision. And that decision to step back from owning my gym to really focus on myself and actually run my business from online provided me this opportunity to really understand what my body needed and still be able to do the job I love, which is ultimately helping people have more confidence and strength. So now it doesn't need to be that extreme, but it starts with recognizing what you need and not being afraid to ask for help and support and to be able to call it out for yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Emily. And I can resonate with that also with my first business. And it is easy to get caught up in that cycle and kind of forget what it's all about and taking care of ourselves. So let's start talking about strength, because strength is one of those words that can mean so many different things depending on where you're hearing it, your past experiences, and a lot of marketing, especially towards women. Strength is still tied to appearance. Are you leaner? Are you tiny or more toned? Have you lost weight? And overall, is your body changing in a way that other people can see? And there is nothing wrong with wanting to feel good in your body. We want to make that clear. Nothing wrong with having body goals. But I think the conversation becomes really limited when strength is only about how we look.
Yeah, 100%. So if you think about women who do powerlifting, for example, they can't have a low body fat percentage because they'll not be able to have enough energy to support the amount of energy output and strength for their one rep maxes which is what they test. So we need a certain amount of healthy body fat to survive in general, and to perform at our best, to reproduce as women, to ovulate. And so many times, marketing especially pushes the opposite, the unhealthy version of what women or girls should strive to be like or look like. So, as you can imagine, I see this all the time in my adult clients as well. And a lot of women come into fitness with a visual goal, which, like we're saying, a visual goal is never a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. I love working towards a visual goal and I love aesthetic goals. But when losing weight is the primary focus, instead of getting stronger, we lose sight of the science behind what it actually takes to change your body composition in a healthy way that's going to support you, your hormones, and bring you real lasting confidence. So I wanted to say real quick, in order to lose, like a little side note here, in order to lose body fat, you need a good amount of muscle mass. And the more muscle mass that you have, the faster your metabolism is actually going to work in your favor. And the faster your metabolism works, paired with the right nutrition, the more likely you are to actually lose that unwanted body fat and keep it off. So, strength training gives you so many more things than just a visual result. It supports your metabolism, it supports muscle mass, bone density as you age, your posture, and your longevity. It also supports aging well and your ability to do all the things in your everyday life. And I think that this is the part that gets missed. Strength is not just about how your body looks, it's about what your body allows you to do in your life.
Yeah, I love that, Emily. And it hits close to home. I mean, as a woman who is into the early 50s, that is such an important piece is, that bone density and really staying strong as I shift into my later years in life. And we really want to talk about it offering freedom to live,
Mm.
move, travel, adventure. That's one of my favorites. And do what
Hmm.
you desire through all stages of life. The word I keep coming back to, which is kind of the underlying piece, is capacity. Because for women who are leading, caregiving, working, parenting, supporting others, and holding so many balls in the air, parts of life together, strength isn't just physical, it really is capacity. Can I get through my day with energy? Can I travel and enjoy the activities that I really want to without feeling completely exhausted? And, this one hits home for me. Can I hike, move, climb, and even lifting my bag into the airplane and being able
Hmm.
to do all the things that I love without feeling limited in my body? It's really about aging and still having freedom and being able to do the things that I love. And so this is such a different conversation.
Absolutely. And I love the word freedom here. That really kind of captures what we're talking about. And I love when women start to feel that shift. Because when someone starts strength training consistently, it's not just, oh, my body looks different or it looks great. Let me give a few examples that I've heard personally from my clients. I have more confidence in who I am. I feel more capable, as a parent with my kids or going on hikes. My back does not hurt as much, or a big one, my hips don't hurt as much, which is huge if you're someone who moves. I have more energy and I'm less afraid to take up space. And I feel stronger in my everyday life. And I love the one where I'm not afraid to take up space, because that just says so much right there, especially as women. As we age, building muscle is the most supportive thing we can actually do for our bodies. It's not just about fitness and being fit, it's about your independence and, like you were saying, the longevity, resilience, and about being able to do the things that we love as we age.
Yeah, and that is a deep connection for me. If we say we want a life that feels aligned, meaningful, and full, then we need a body that can help us participate in that life. Strength becomes one way we build capacity, not just physically, but also emotionally and energetically. For me, as I mentioned, adventuring is important to my mental and spiritual and physical well being. When I feel strong enough to do the activities that I love, like rock climbing or hiking or backpacking up some of the steepest, hardest terrain, I feel like I'm in alignment with myself and with nature and life. And it's really about having that physical capacity to allow me to do what I love and then also feel good doing it. And this is where I think the mindset piece comes in, because a lot of people are approaching fitness, and I've been there before too, from the self criticism place. We've all been guilty of it, right? It starts with, I hate how I look. I need to fix this. I need to get back on track. Sometimes we're punishing ourselves into change, and the energy around that matters. Because even if the workout is technically good, the relationship with the body can still be rooted in criticism.
Completely. And I want to be clear, because if we're talking about this, I want to talk about effort, and effort does matter here. And you do need consistency, and we do need progressive overload to build things like more muscle mass. And we do need to challenge the body if you want to build strength, but there's a difference between challenging your body and pushing your body for punishment. A good strength program should help you build the muscle and the confidence, and it shouldn't leave you feeling broken or so sore that you can hardly sit on the toilet the next day. And you should not be constantly exhausted, underfed, and dreading every workout. And that's a sure sign of, doing too much or being burnt out. And that's not the goal here.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're talking about is a mindset shift, looking at
Mhm.
strength as an act of self support, a way of saying that you want to be able to participate in your full life and feel grounded in yourself and trust your body, which feels very different than I need to change myself before I'm acceptable.
Exactly. And that's where women start to build confidence within themselves, not just confidence because their body looks a certain way, or it finally looks like enough to them in the mirror, right? Confidence because they know they are showing up for themselves in the ways that matter.
And it's interesting to see that connection between the mind and the body and the soul when we talk through this, because when you feel physically stronger, it can change how you relate to yourself. You might stand differently, maybe a little more confidently, breathe differently, and even move through your day differently. And from a deeper perspective, strength can support alignment because you have more energy and capacity to live the life that you actually want. It is hard to live in alignment if you're constantly depleted, disconnected, or at war with your own body.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes people separate these things too much. They think fitness is over here and mindset is over here, and purpose or spirituality is somewhere completely different. But, as we're talking and connecting and hopefully showing, everything is all connected, and alignment really means that we're connected to all of these things. And if we're not eating enough, sleeping enough, moving the body, building strength in a way that's fulfilling, and giving our bodies the time to recover well, then it can affect your mood and it can affect your confidence, like we were saying, your stress, and how you show up even in relationships to the people that really matter to you and that you love. It affects your ability to pursue what matters in your life.
That's why we're not talking about strength as a vanity metric. We're talking about strength
Mm.
as a foundation for a fuller life.
I love that vanity metric. It's not what we're here for.
No.
Although I love a good aesthetic goal. So, as we bring this all together, maybe the question is not just what do I want my body to look like? Maybe the better question here is what do I want my body to feel like? And this is such a big one, especially for a lot of my clients, is this feeling. Do I want to feel more capable, more energized, more confident? Independence is huge, resilient, and maybe able to adventure, lead, parent, travel, and live more fully.
Yeah, absolutely. Because strength, as we're saying, is not about fighting with your body. It's about building a relationship with your body that gives you more freedom to pursue the things that you love. So, we have a question for you. How does strength help you to live your best life?
So, I want to talk about something I see all the time when women want to feel stronger, change their body composition, or have more energy. And a lot of them are not eating enough, or they aren't eating consistently. And this is a huge one. Or they aren't trying to follow some old dieting rules that do not actually support their body or their lifestyle. And then they don't understand why they feel exhausted, why their workouts feel hard, why they are craving sugar, or why their results have stalled. Or, for instance, why their weight is actually going in reverse, which is something that I have seen. So the answer is not always more discipline. Discipline can be easily misconstrued as a restrict thing. The answer is often more nourishment or more recovery and more calories in the right amounts to support the body.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important shift because food can carry so much emotion.
Mm.
For many people, food is not just food. It can sometimes feel like control or guilt or comfort, even a reward or a punishment. And sometimes it's associated with being good or being bad. And so when we talk about fueling, we're not just talking about macros and meal timing. We're also talking about the relationship that you have with supporting yourself.
Yes, and from a practical standpoint, underfueling can affect so many things. It will affect your energy levels, your mood, sleep quality, that's a big one that can be overlooked, cravings, gut health, all related. And then it will start to affect your training performance and your recovery. This will in turn affect body composition. So all of these stacked on top of each other, boom, there goes your body composition, right? And if you're trying to build strength, but your body doesn't have enough fuel, enough cells to build the muscle and to go towards every other cell in your body, it's going to be really hard to get the results that you actually want. So you cannot build strength from depletion, which is super important to understand. And I'm not just talking about being in a caloric deficit, but what happens when your central nervous system has been in this fight or flight for too long, or when your caloric deficit has turned into maintenance food or maintenance calories. So, this is where the body can get really loud and start talking to us in different signals. So, if you're underfueled, your body may respond with poor sleep, sleep interruptions, getting up to pee a lot, which can lead to cravings, poor recovery, stalled progress in the gym, and feeling like you have no willpower, maybe when it comes to food, right? So, many times, this is not a willpower issue at all. It's a fueling and depletion issue. So, when your body is trying to regulate blood sugar, hunger signals, stress hormones, in training, recovery, all of these things without eating and getting enough nutrients to go to all of the cells and systems within your body, these systems start breaking down and becoming unbalanced. So if you're asking it to lift, work, lead, parent, and you're asking your body to manage all of these everyday stresses, but you're not supporting your body and your metabolism, eventually something is going to give. And in women, that can often look like packing on weight, especially around the midsection.
Yeah, and so many women internalize this as failure. They think I'm not
Mhm.
disciplined enough. But sometimes the body is not feeling, it's just under supported. I think you made that point really clear. This is where the research we did was also useful because it pointed us toward the same idea, I guess, from a different angle. Many women are not asking, how do I become more motivated? They're asking, why am I exhausted when I'm doing everything right? So instead
Mhm.
of adding more pressure or being hard on ourselves, we have to ask what support is missing. Is it food? Is it recovery? Is it sleep? And that's a big one too. Is it boundaries? Creating safe space for yourself? Or is it clarity around what really matters most? And that is a much more helpful question than why can't I just push harder?
And that does not mean nutrition has to be perfect by any means. I think that this is another place people get stuck. They think if I cannot do it perfectly, why even bother? Or that
Mm.
mentality, I'll start again on Monday, right? But supportive nutrition is not about perfection. It's about having a consistency. Even if you miss a snack or a meal, you go back to your normal routine. And are we thinking about, are we getting enough protein? Are we eating regularly enough? Are we hydrating? Are you supporting your workouts with the nutrition that you're intaking? And are you eating meals that keep your energy steady and from, rising and crashing? So are we giving ourselves the time to recover after training, and are we paying attention to how food actually makes us feel within our body? And those basics do matter.
Yes, for sure. I think it really extends beyond the gym, of course, too, right? You can't stay emotionally steady or connected to yourself from depletion. The body
Mm.
needs support. And when I think about fueling, I also think about the spiritual and emotional layer. Am I nourishing the life that I say I actually want? And am I supporting the version of myself who wants to feel clear and present and connected? I notice that when I am underfueled or running on coffee and momentum, for example, I am far less grounded, less clear, and emotionally steady. And oftentimes that sort of perpetuates into things not feeling like they're working right. I feel overwhelmed. And then I'm not bringing my best self to anything, my workouts, my work itself, and of course, my family. And this is where the regulated mind piece comes in because control can feel calming at first. A strict food plan can feel like certainty, rules can feel like safety, and tracking can help us feel like we're in control. And of course, structure is useful. But if the emotional energy underneath it is fear or shame or self punishment, then the body is still living under pressure.
Yeah, and this is why I like structure, but I do not want women trapped in this all or nothing mindset, because the pattern becomes, instead of, nourishing, it becomes restrict. I feel deprived, and then they might end up losing control, right? And in consuming or binging and then feeling guilty. And then again, let's start over Monday, let's start again. And this cycle is exhausting for you emotionally and mentally. And it also does not build trust with your body or a reliable metabolic pattern that your body actually needs. The body, and especially your metabolism, they thrive on structure and habits to actually see those physical body composition changes that you really want.
Yeah, exactly. And nourishment is such a powerful reframe when we think about food and fueling because it asks, what would support me? What would help me feel steady? What would help me have energy for the life that I'm actually living?
Yes, exactly. And I think that women need to know that eating more does not mean they are doing something wrong. For example, I had a client that I've been working with, and we increased her calories. And within 2 weeks or even a week of increasing those calories, and she, understood that it was really to support muscle growth and energy, it transferred into her real everyday life, and she had less brain fog at her desk at work, and she didn't have these mid-afternoon crashes. And for her, that was huge. And sometimes eating more strategically is exactly what helps your body feel safer, stronger, and more responsive. So especially if they've been under eating and overtraining or living under a lot of stress. I've had a lot of clients come to me with old ideals of, I can't eat fruit more than one time a day, which was like brain boggling to me because I had never heard that. And or I'm not used to eating so much food. But then by the end of that first week of us working together and actually eating enough to support their body, the feedback is astounding. And I no longer, like I was mentioning, have brain fog, or I'm not as hungry after my meals now that I'm eating more. So I don't even want the salty chips that I told you I was never going to take out of my diet in the first place. Those have to stay. So this transformation really is what it is, and trusting that food is nourishing and fulfilling us is really amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think people underestimate how much nourishment affects emotional steadiness. Of course, food does not solve everything, but if you're underfueled, it's going to be harder to regulate your emotions. It's going to be harder to be patient, harder to focus, make aligned choices, and, feel connected to yourself and what really matters.
Yes, and blood sugar crashes are very real. So if you're skipping meals, drinking coffee, running on those elevated stress hormones, and then crashing in the afternoon, that's going to impact how you feel overall on a daily basis, and carry over. It's going to impact your gut health, and we know if we feed our gut biome with lots of sugar, it's going to impact those cravings. So you start craving more sugar. It's going to impact your workouts. You might not have the energy that a well fueled person with less sugar is consuming. And I don't say that to make food another thing to obsess over, because that's not what we want to do here. But I say it because sometimes the most supportive thing is super simple, and it's eat real food. And this is so huge. And where I start with my clients is eat the food that was grown in the earth, and add protein to it, and drink water. And don't wait until you're absolutely starving and just grabbing anything in the cupboard to eat. Fuel before and after training. And those are the basics that we always want to come back to.
Yeah, absolutely. I can sometimes be guilty of having that feeling like I have to earn my food. I've really shifted into a different mindset, which is, am I feeling hungry because I need nourishment? Or am I hungry because I have an emotion coming up and my initial reaction is to use food to deal with that emotion? And having presence and awareness around this really creates a different relationship with food and with the cravings that can come up.
If food has felt like the thing you reach for to have control, I would invite you to shift the question here. Instead of asking yourself, what do I need to take away in terms of food? Can you reshape the question to what does my body need more of to feel supported?
Yeah. And then maybe also ask, where am I still using food as a way to control versus supporting myself? And that is not a question for shame. It is a question just to build awareness, because the goal is not to shrink yourself into an old standard or a way of thinking. The goal is to fuel the life that you actually want to live.